Hey, welcome back, you guys. Thanks for doing the phonics practice with me. And now we're going to go ahead and get started on our nonfiction text today. So I love this book. I know all of you know that I actually love all these books because I love the pictures. I love where these authors take us. We get to see things that we normally wouldn't see on a regular basis. So, of course, that is the fun of just the enjoyment of reading. Again, this is our first non-text that we're going to do together, and this is actually called Beaks Are Cool Tools, and it is a How Bodies Work series. And I know most of you know that when we see a book that says series, that means there's going to be other books that we read that are going to tell us some more cool things about bodies and how they work. Again, this is nonfiction. And what I love is these books always tell us what the genre is. We've discussed that. And genre is just a fancy word for what kind of book are we reading? Are we reading a fiction or a nonfiction? And in this case, we are reading an expository. That's right. And an expository book, I know we've discussed where we talk about the word explain. And that's what makes an expository book so neat. It explains something to us. And in this case, we're going to talk about the beaks of birds. So very fun. Let's get started. I always like to take a look at the table of contents. The author does a great job, and I'm just going to scoot over here so we can see this together. The author did a great job of organizing the information for us. And if you notice, all of you know how to read the table of contents, but it's fun to read it just so we know where we're going in the story. On page 2, we're going to find the right tool. Moving on to hummingbirds, flamingos, woodpeckers, toucans, and looking at beaks, and of course the glossary. So that's a great help. We know where we're going. We're going to be looking at different birds and their beaks. Another thing that I like to do with certain books is take a look at the glossary words, because these are the words we're going to see in text. And so I'm going to try to get the book nice and stable so you can read with me as I read along. We're going to begin with this word right here, and the word is chisel. And interesting, look at that, that's the CH. We did a phonics practice with that, only now it's back to its original CH sound, right? Chisel. And what is a chisel? A pointed tool used to chip away at wood or stone. And that's going to be a very important word for a bird, isn't it? For them to be able to chisel away. And we'll see what bird we find that word with. The next word is nectar, a sweet liquid inside of a flower. And again, that's a very important word for one of these birds that we're going to be reading about. The next word is preen. This word means to use a beak to groom and clean feathers. Very good. Okay, and there's that word preen. Our next word is shallow. I'm sure many of you have seen that regarding swimming in a pool, and it means not deep. Very good. The next word is strainer. Oh, I love how they use this word when they describe this next bird that we're going to read about. And the strainer is a tool used to collect solid pieces from water. Very, very good. And so we also use a strainer in the kitchen, don't we? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, and this next word is survive. There it is. And what does survive mean? It means to simply stay alive. And that's something that's important to all of us, actually, not just birds. And then here, our last glossary word is tongs. Can you see that? I'm going to try to read that and keep that still. Tongs, a tool with 2 long pieces used for grabbing. Very good. Now, I'd like to start the book with you. And what I'm inviting you to do, since I know that you don't have this book with you like we normally do in group, is I'm encouraging you, read along with me. We always work on fluency. That means reading the words nice and smooth. And so as I read, you read right along with me. And that way you're engaging your brain and so am I, and we're working together. So let's try this, see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and open up. There's our table of contents. There's our title. There's our author, Susan Ring. And let's go ahead and get started now. We notice on the front here, the author used a lot of bright colors to help us see what we're reading. First of all, he puts the title in these bands and it says the right tool. And then I want to just show you something that you're going to see on each page. You're going to see these beautiful arrows. And what the author is wanting to do is just highlight something for you. Just bring your attention to something. And so we're going to read every arrow. And that's kind of fun because whether or not the books give us little sidebars or little notes, we know that it is the author wanting to highlight something for us. That's right. So whether it's a label, whether it is an arrow or a sidebar, we always want to read everything that the author gives us on the page. So I'm going to bring the book close like this, try to keep it nice and steady. And again, please read along with me as I read with you. Would you eat cereal with a fork? Probably not, right? That's because a fork isn't the right tool for the job. A spoon works so much better. People use different tools for different jobs. We have tools that help us to cut, drill, and eat. We use a fork to pick up food from our plates. We use a sponge to wash dishes. Every tool we use has its own job. A power drill makes holes in wood. A screwdriver helps us turn screws in the holes. Okay, thank you for reading along with me. I am very, very thankful. Now let's go ahead and see, what does the author want us to highlight here? Look at this. A spoon works best for eating cereal. Now, why do you think he said that? The spoon is the tool that he's using. You're absolutely correct. The spoon is the tool that he's using, and it's the correct tool. Yes, absolutely. Let's shake our head yes. There, I'm shaking my book yes. Okay, so let's turn the page. Okay, and there we have another arrow. So let's see after we read what that arrow is going to say. Again, I'll try to focus this book. Please read right along with me. Don't let me do all the work. Birds' beaks are like tools, too. Birds use their beaks to make nests and to preen. And again, what does preen mean? Straighten and clean. We saw that word in the glossary, didn't we? And what do they clean? Their feathers. But mostly they use their beaks to get the food they need. Different kind of birds eat different kinds of foods. They eat what they find in their environment and what they need to survive. Did you notice that each of the bold words that we read in the text were our glossary words? Very important. And if you don't remember what those words were, you could quickly look back and take a look at the definition. But right now, the author's doing a very good job of telling us in the text what those words mean. Okay, nice job. Let's keep reading. Their beaks are just the right shape and size to help them get their food. Now that's going to be key because this is what we're talking about, the beaks of the birds. Each type of bird has a different type of beak. Some beaks are short and rounded. Some are long and pointed. They all help birds get food. Some beaks help birds sip nectar. Notice that word again is a glossary word. Others help them pick up berries. So we're learning now about their beaks. They are their tools, the bird's tools. Very, very important. And let's read what the author wanted us to see. Birds use their beaks to preen their feathers. And what the author really wanted you to see is, take a look. And that is exactly what the bird is doing. And that's why the arrow is directing us to really pay attention and to look. So that was I love these pictures, how beautiful and lifelike they are. All right, bird watch. A bird's beak is also called a bill. It never stops growing. It gets worn down over time, but it always grows back. I think that is just a miracle, don't you? Isn't that neat? I'm sure many of you knew that, but I think some of you probably did not know it. All right, this next section now is going to be on hummingbirds, And you see that heading to alert us that we're going to switch to a different bird. Again, this is a nonfiction text, and it's giving us and explaining to us birds and their beaks as they use them for what we had called tools. So let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and bring this in. Hold this nice and steady for you. Deep in the rainforest, a tiny hummingbird hovers above a colorful flower. The bird pokes its long, slender beak into the flower and takes a drink. The nectar is sweet and gives the hummingbird the energy it needs to keep flying. A hummingbird doesn't land or sit still to eat. It hovers in the air above a flower by beating its wings rapidly. That takes a lot of energy. A hummingbird needs plenty of nectar to keep going. And there's that important word, nectar. I'm sorry if my screen just blacked out on you. Let's take a look at that. It makes it difficult if the screen blacks out and you can't see it. And so the hummingbird we've often seen actually in nature, and he moves his wings so fast, and that was that beating its wings rapidly. Very good. Okay, and let's take a look at that hummingbird, and let's go ahead and read. The hummingbird uses its beak as a tool to help it reach the nectar. It's a lot like a tool people use to sip liquid, and we can see that, can't we? Absolutely. His beak is like a straw, isn't it? Just gets right into it. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for joining me on part 1 of our nonfiction texts on Beaks, our cool tools. I try to keep the videos shorter in the beginning so that you guys want to come back. So I'll see you next time for part 2 of phonics practice and Beaks are cool tools. Okay, see ya.